everyone. I'm Dan Kaplan from SC Magazine, and welcome to our very special Reboot in Focus videos, where we sit down with leading security experts to reflect on the year that was in 2012 and break out the crystal ball and try to predict what may come in 2013. Today we're here with Jerome Becquart, who is VP and General Manager of Identity Assurance at HID Global. Jerome, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Dan.
Jerome, 2012 saw a continued wave of bank account takeovers. Hackers came in, dropped a Trojan on end users' computers, and were able to compromise their bank accounts. This happened to a lot of small and mid-sized businesses. Frankly, companies that couldn't afford it to happen to them, and it brought a lot of them to their knees. Banks have since responded, implementing better front-end security around authentication. Are you seeing any improvement on this front?
We're seeing a lot more demand from banks, small banks as well as large banks, looking at a more comprehensive approach to security. Typically, in the past, banks were focusing on the initial authentication, using either strong password or one-time password type device. What we come to realize is that it's not good enough, because as the hacking techniques are changing, with more and more men in the browser, or attack at the browser level and not only at the operating system level, you need a more comprehensive approach to the way you validate who you are doing a transaction with. So yes, we're seeing increase in that space. We're seeing banks looking at more comprehensive solution, looking at strong authentication, risk-based authentication, and an approach where the challenge I think that most banks have these days is that you want to increase security, but you cannot impact user convenience. Because if you build a system that is very secure, but nobody can transact with, then your customer will try to find will go somewhere else for business.
Broadly speaking, what is the problem that a lot of these banks have that is enabling these fraudulent wire transfers to take place?
Well, there is multiple areas where hacker can attack the system, from injecting virus at the operating system level, monitoring keystrokes on the machine. So a lot of things.
Of the banking customer.
Of the banking customers, the end user. There is also, the back-end system at the bank, but the back-end system at the bank is usually an area that has already been protected. There's a lot of investments that have been done in the past. Most of the problem we are seeing today are at the end user level, the small business or the consumer that is transacting with his bank. Risk at the operating system level, risk at the browser. I mean, a lot of the new things we're seeing this year is man in the browser attack, where the browser itself is compromised, and so you would authenticate by typing, password. You are really transacting with your bank, but there is something between you and the bank that change the transaction content. For example, the amount of the transaction or the direction where the transaction will go. So instead of moving from your saving to your debit account, it will move from your saving to somebody else's debit account in Russia, China, or wherever you want to go.
And there's been some legal developments around this as well, where the banks in the past have been able to sort of claim, we have commercial reasonable security in place and not be held liable. But there's been some developments this year where judges have come down a little harder on the banks. And then you mentioned the FFIEC guidance that is coming into play now. So banks are really going to have to pick up their game a little bit. Yeah. Let's transition from finance over to government, where authentication has always played a big role, both for physical systems as well as the logical, the computer networks. We saw that with HSBD 12. Tell me a little bit about some of the developments on this front.
So the government, it's really different from what we just talked about, in the sense that in the government space, the user experience can be a little bit more constrained. So the biggest things we're seeing now is that through the HSBD 12 mandate that came in the mid-2000s, now most of government employees have a smart card that they can use to authenticate themselves, get into the building, get into their computer, get into the online system. So the infrastructure is there, the cards are there. Now, what's really not there yet is the usage of the card. So you're seeing a lot of activity in the US government of agencies upgrading their physical access system so that they can use this more advanced authentication method at the door, upgrading their PCs so that you can use the card to sign email or encrypt email. Really leveraging these investments. There is even some discussion about using the same card for transportation so that, you could put some money on the card and, when you go back and forth on the metro system, a lot of the government employees get funds from the agencies to pay for the transportation from and back to work. You could use the same card for that. The biggest challenge today from a US government standpoint is the bring your own device type of thing, which is happening everywhere in the enterprise, but also happening in the government. So now the problem of protecting access to a PC is relatively well understood. You've got smart card reader, you have the whole infrastructure. Microsoft provide a number of tools so that you can use a strong credential to securely authenticate to your enterprise system or government system. So
that's been pretty locked down, the traditional computing environments.
It's not deployed yet everywhere, but the infrastructure, the solutions are known. The problem you have now is if you bring your iPad or your iPhone or Android phone or whatever, then it's changed completely, because you're not going to have a smart card reader attached to your iPhone. I mean, you want something that is small, that is compact, that is cool. If you have another device to carry next to it, it's too cumbersome. Mm-hmm. So the issue of how do I protect access to these mobile devices, some of them owned by the government, some of them owned by the employee himself, is one of the great challenges we have today.
Because these videos are, formatted under the Reboot banner, I want to put you on the spot and ask you, what surprised you most about 2012 within the security space?
I think the biggest trend is the bring your own device that is accelerating even faster than we thought. And it's funny that, in my experience, enterprises have always been faced with the geeks that would try to bring their own operating system, typically Linux, and try to convince the IT team to change their policy to let them use the machine. Never worked. What happened with the current set of tablets and smartphone and so on, it's not the technical geeky people that want them, is more sales, is more executive team, and then it's much more difficult to say no.
So the level especially when the C-suite is asking for the latest iPad, right?
So what we see is really the acceleration of this becoming, and I've seen it in my own company where our IT department was, this is a machine you take, that's the only way you use to it. And the last 18 months, completely turning over and saying, what do you want to use? And changing the approach of servicing us as internal customer in the enterprise.
Yeah, surely. Well, if the amount of webcasts and videos and conference talks are any indication, BYOD is going to continue to make news next year. And to that point, looking ahead to 2013, I mean, do you have any predictions that are maybe a little out there, a little unorthodox?
So going back to your initial point around banking as threat, I think it's increasing. What we're seeing now is that, and it's in line with the BYOD, as more and more people use their phone to transact and either do work or online banking or whatever, the level of threats and viruses and hacks that happen on smartphone platform is increasing. And I think that it's going to, in 2013, increase even faster than it was in the past. And so you are going to see a lot more activity in that space. I think it will also, because of the way people are used to deal with this type of device compared to the way you deal with a PC at home, you expect much higher level of convenience. So the security industry need to evolve so that we provide the right level of security, but with the right level of user experience. Because on an iPhone, you're not going to type lengthy password or have to connect some kind of smart card reader or something. You need to find a way where end users feel protected and feel they can transact online without impacting their user experience.
All right, Jerome, well, I'm going through withdrawal of checking my Twitter stream, so we better wrap up. But I want to thank you, Jerome Becquart, Vice President and General Manager of Identity Assurance at HID Global. Thanks for coming in focus with us today and talking about what happened in 2012 and looking ahead to 2013.
Thanks, Dan. It was my pleasure.